Today is going to talk about how you can fix bugs faster using Ray. So without further ado, take it away.
Thank you. Hey. Thanks. Yeah, half of the work was getting here already. I'm glad that we already got that sorted. Here I am together with my buddy Frederick. Um, Before I start my talk, I want to get the lay of the land a little bit. Who here uses PHP? Okay, that's good. Who here uses Laravel? Oh, that's also good. And is there already somebody who knows Ray and uses Ray? Okay, yeah, nice. You're my favorite person in the audience right now. But for the others, I'm going to explain everything to you. I'm going to show you how you can understand and fix bugs faster using a tool called Ray. For those that don't know me, I'm Freek van der Herten. I'm a partner and a developer at a Belgian company called Spatie. I'm active on Twitter. My handle is Freek Meurze. I have a blog, freek.dev, where I write about modern PHP development and Laravel and basically everything that keeps me busy. Next to my day job, I have a side project called Oh Dear, which is an uptime tracker. And this uptime tracker does not only check your homepage, but it will actually crawl your entire web page and it will notify you when there is a broken link. And together with my colleagues at Spatie, I've built Flare, which is basically the best exception tracker service for Laravel applications. Now, before heading into the talk itself, I want to give you an update on our open source efforts. We have about 300 packages registered on Packagist. They have now been downloaded 300 million times, and they are being downloaded for close to 20 million downloads a month. Yeah, we're very grateful that the community likes the stuff that we are putting out. You can find a big list of everything we open sourced on our company website. We have a open source section there where you can see every package that we've made, and I'm pretty sure there's something there for your next project. Now, those packages, they are not entirely free. There is a special license on them called Postcardware, which means that if you use any of our stuff and it gets into your production environment, you are required by law to send us a postcard. And we get, yeah, daily we get postcards. And I should say that the Netherlands are at the #1 spot in our country list, but we're still missing, yeah, about 200 million postcards. So keep them coming if you haven't sent them yet. Now we not only make open source, but also paid products and courses. So if you like what we're doing, go and take a look at our digital products. Now let's head into the talk itself and talk a little bit about the options that you have for debugging PHP. And basically, these are your options. You can use dump and die debugging, and with that I mean stuff like the dump function or the printr function or var dump. Everybody has done that, and it's a great way to debug stuff. But there is also another way, which is called Xdebug, which is a step debugger for PHP, which I'm sure that some of you have already used. Now, a couple of summers ago, Dirk Retans, the creator of Xdebug, tweeted this out, which was a little bit controversial at the time. PHP developers that don't use Xdebug for debugging are amateurs. And I thought, that's a little bit harshly put, and I don't think it's necessarily true because, yeah, I've been paying the bills with PHP for quite some time now, and yeah, I use dump and die and var dump all over the place, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of other people do so. Now, I know that I know Derek a little bit. He didn't mean it that hard. He nuanced his statement a little bit, but still, he thinks that dump and die isn't the way you should do this. So let's go into the options that you have in a little bit more detail. So here's what Derek likes, Xdebug. With Xdebug, you can pause your code and you can see the entire state of your application at one point in time. And it's quite amazing. You can just halt your code, and just by hovering over variables, you can see the content of the variables, you can see the stack trace. It's very handy. With Xdebug, you can also do something called step debugging that is just going to the next line or going to the next method, so you can see how the code flows a bit. Yeah, this is all great, but there's one big thing that I really don't like about Xdebug, and that is that it could be hard to install. In my opinion, or my experience, installing Xdebug is a little bit like Russian roulette. You don't know where you're going to end up. Sometimes it just works and it takes 1 minute, and sometimes it takes an hour to get right. Now let's talk about dump debugging. So using statements like var dump or printr. It's very easy to do. These functions are just available everywhere, and it's just typing the function there, executing your code, and you can basically see the contents of that. And it also allows you to see the state of your for your application in multiple points in time. What do I mean with this? Imagine that you are debugging some kind of loop, which takes like 10 iterations or something. Then you could just put a dump statement in the beginning of the loop, execute your code, and then you would see all iterations at the same time. And that's something that's a little bit harder to do with Xdebug. Now, there are also some bad things with dump debugging. Imagine that you're outputting some kind of HTML page, and you put a var dump statement in there, and you want to see what is the output for that. Just by having like a var dump in there, it could break your HTML page in some strange ways. The output may be somewhere in a div in the top right corner, or maybe your whole layout would break. It's a little bit cumbersome there, and it can also get a little bit confusing when running a code that has a dump statement multiple times. Imagine that you're debugging some kind of CLI command, and you run it multiple times. Then it can be a little bit difficult to see, what did I change here? Where does this output belong to? And there are also some ugly things about dump debugging. I'm sure that some of you might have had this problem as well. Imagine that you had like a hard to track bug, and you've put a lot of debug statements in various files. And something that I sometimes do is dump the string here or something. And I fixed it, so now I'm going to remove everything, but I forget where I have put that one. And it's sometimes hard to track down where did I put my debugging statements. Even if you think you've all removed them and you didn't, you might commit one of them, push them to production, and now, you have a debug statement in your production environment, and you might be exposing some sensitive information. And this is all something that doesn't necessarily happen every time, but there's like a risk that you forget to remove a debugging statement. So there are two options, the dump and die debugging, and we have Xdebug. But I was thinking, couldn't we have like the dump debugging without all of the downsides? So I only want like the advantages of dump debugging. And I thought, okay, let's make something that is in between dump debugging and Xdebug. And that's something that is called Ray. Ray is a beautiful desktop application, and when you've installed the Ray library in your project, then you can use the Ray function to send your debugging information to that specific window. And whereas with normal die and dump debugging, you would just dump strings or booleans or integers or something, using Ray, you can send entire mails to that. You can see the queries that your code performs. You can even pause your code without having to install an extension and much more. Now, it's a paid piece of software, more on that later, but there is a free trial. Now, I want to show it to you because I've already talked a lot, but I believe that to convince people that it's something, you should just show them stuff. So I've prepared like a little demo project here. It's a Laravel application, and I'm using just artisan commands to show you stuff. I'm using artisan commands because I can execute this easily. I can just call the Ray function here and give it stuff. But you should imagine when I type Ray here just in the command, that you type Ray somewhere in your application. You're trying to debug something. Okay, let's take a look at Ray itself. So I've said that Ray is a beautiful desktop application. This is how it looks like. And by default, it just takes the top. So even if you're in full screen in another application, Ray will still be on top. And we have like hotkeys to show and hide it. Okay, how do you send something to Ray? Well, it's very simple. You just give it whatever you want to send to Ray. So, hi everybody, let's demo this. Let's run this this command, and you can see that we see hi everybody here. You also notice that we also mention where we have logged this. So if I'm in another file and I want to see where did this get logged, I can just click it and I go to where that log was produced. Now this can take everything that you want. You can just give it an integer if you want. You can also give it an array if you want. You can even give it large objects, such as the Laravel application object. And let's see what happens. And sure enough, we get all of that output here. So here we have hi everybody, that one. We have that array, which is collapsible. And we have the application object here, which is a quite large object. Now you can already see here I've executed this multiple times, and it's already hard to tell like from which invocation came which output. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just clear our outputs before we log something again? You can do that with the new screen command. So if you get a new screen here, and let's make this a little bit shorter by just removing that app. And if I run the demo now, then you can see that the screen was cleared and I only see the last output. Let's maybe make it a little bit more clear by adding the date time here. So here you can see the date time now, and now we're a second later. So you always know that this output came from the last invocation. Now, you can also imagine that if you have a lot of debugging output, that it still can be confusing. I don't know if you've ever done this. If you have like some debugging output, like I am here or something, and you have like lots of them there, and you really want to know, hey, where am I here? Sometimes what I did was like I am here, so that it's a little bit more in your face, that you can immediately visually show it. Now with Ray we can do better with that. We can give these little lines some color. So if I just have something here, hello, and I have, let's make this a little bit smaller. I have hello 2 here, and maybe I want to something important in the middle or something, I can make this red just by chaining red to that. So let's do the demo again. And now you can see that we have like a red color, so it immediately stands out between the rest. I can use some other colors as well, so we can have green here, so we can make those things pop out. We also have a couple of color filters here. So if you only want to see like the green items, you can just activate this one, or only the red items, and you can activate this one. And this can be handy when using a lot of debugging output to just filter out the things that you need there. For people that are preferring dark mode, we have dark mode, so I can just put this in dark mode, and you can see that we have like a lovely dark window here. But I'm a fan of, oh, not update, I'm a fan of the light, so I'm going to use the light theme here back again. Okay. Is there something else I want to say about the basics here? No, I think that is it for like the basic things. But this is where we're just getting started. Ray can do a whole lot more. There we have some framework specific packages, and I'm happy to tell you that the Laravel specific package is one of the most feature rich that we have. Let's maybe go, for instance, to the log command here. So I'm going to get a new screen. I'm going to send something to Ray here, and then I'm going to send something to the log via the facade. So if I execute this command, then you will see that whatever gets written in the log also automatically gets in the Ray window, which can be very handy. Because most likely, if you have log statements in your code, they already tell you something about what is happening in your code. And I don't know if you know that, but by default, Laravel will also write every mail that your application sends to the application log, because the default mailer in Laravel is the log driver. So let's see what happens if I send a mail from my Laravel application. Let's run this. Then you can see that, we see the mail here right in Ray. You can see here that it's notified also that it's a mail. You see the subject, the to, and all these links here, they work as well. And this is great for when you're a little bit out of debugging but into testing. When you want to test something like your password reset flow or something, you can just send the mail from your code, click here and see that it works. I think I have a link here now behind spatie.be. So you can just use this to test out the mails in your application. Okay, let's do another one. So we have here, let's make this a little bit smaller. We have here the query command. So what you can do with Ray is not only give it some stuff, but you can also call some special methods on it. And one of them is called show queries. And whenever you call show queries, from that moment on, every query that your Laravel application will execute will be written in Ray itself. And this can be very handy when you want to know which queries get performed by a specific piece of code. You can just turn it on where you want to see it and turn it off where you don't want to see it anymore. So that's a little bit different from something like the Laravel debug bar, where you see like all the queries, but it can be hard to see like from this piece of code, I only want to see the queries from there. So let's check this out. So let's run the query command here. And here you can see that we got the queries. So we performed this one, we performed that one. You can see the connection name, and you can see how much time that it took. And this is, yeah, something that I use a lot. It's very handy. Another thing that we can do is pause your code, and without using any extension. Let me show you that. So this is the demo of the pause. So I'm going to clear the screen. Then I'm going to pause, and this will not happen because the code is paused. And you will also see the command hanging here. So let's try it out. So let's pause. And you can see here that we now have the little dialog to see if my code should continue or not. You can see we don't see after the pause, and our command is still hanging. Let's click continue, and now we see after the pause and our command has ended. And I want to emphasize again that we don't use any extension at all for this. This is just PHP. Now, why could pausing code be handy? This can be very handy to test like side effects of your code. Imagine that you have like a loop, and in the loop you make an API call, or maybe you want to store something in the database, and you want to see like what the state is after each loop. Then you can just put like a pause in the beginning of the loop and just go through each case one by one. That is just one use case. There are lots of places where you'll find that pausing the code is very, very handy. Now you might think, yeah, how does this work? And does anybody have any idea how we could make this work with just PHP? It's laughably easy, really. It's running a while loop with a sleep in it. And how it works is that in that while loop, we put a sleep for a second, and after every second, the Ray application will call or the Ray package inside of your project will call the Ray application, and it will ask, should I still pause? And if it still pauses, yeah, then we go into another loop. And if the Ray application says you don't have to pause anymore, yeah, then we just continue. And voila, we have a pausing functionality without any extension. And of course, whenever we want to stop running the code, then we just throw an exception that to stop the code. That's how that works. Okay, let's take a look at which one we also have. This is also a good one. Basically, you can see here in this application, I have like, this is my test application where I test Ray with. And you can see for each functionality, I have a command here. And don't worry, we're not going to do them all. I'm also only going to show a couple here. So what you can also do is measure performance using Ray. So how does that work? So in this command, we're first going to clear the screen. Then we are going to call Ray measure. And when you call measure for the first time, that's when we are going to start measuring the time. Then we are going to sleep. And then we're going to call measure again. And when we call measure again, then we are going to see the time between this measure call and that measure call. And then we're going to sleep again, we're going to do another measure, and then we're going to see the different times between those. And this is like very handy to see quickly the performance of a piece of code. I'm sure that we've all at some point just took the timestamp in the code, and then we take this timestamp again, and then we subtract the previous timestamp. We all do that. Well, now Measure does that for you. It also does that under the hood, so you don't have to anymore. Okay, let's try this out. So let's measure here. Start measuring performance, and you can see that the very first time we start measuring performance. Then the second time that we had a measure, then we're 1 second runtime, and here the third measure call, we have 3 seconds runtime because of the 1 plus 2. And as a bonus, you also see the maximum memory usage that we used while running this code. So yeah, I think this is very handy. Let's see what else I want to show you. Let's show something else cool that isn't in these commands. So how you install that Ray function is by just using the Spatie Laravel Ray package, and you can keep it installed because it does a check in which environment that it is, and if it doesn't see like, hey, there's a Ray application running, then it won't do anything. So it's safe to just push this to production if you want, because it won't output anything in production. Now, if you push it to production, can you still see those Ray calls? And the answer is yes, because Ray also works over remote connections. So let's try that out. So I already have prepared something, and I'm going to use the server of my blog for this. I've already prepared a little thing here in the Ray directory, and it's a simple script. So if I take a look at the index.php there, you can see that I just require the autoloader because we have used Ray as a package here. We're going to do Ray hi there, and that's basically it. So what you need to do in Ray is define the server, and I've already done that here, and just connect to the server. And now we are listening for Ray calls on the server. So let's run this little script here and see what happens. And you see that a new window pops up, and you can see that this is the output from fake.def, and this is the output from hi there in the index.php file on line number 5. So you can use this to easily debug some small stuff on your server without the risk of exposing any information via the web. How this works is that Ray opens also an SSH connection on a different port, and all information is getting sent securely via that. It's not that we use like regular HTTP for this at all. And of course, you can use any method that you want here. So if you want to make this a little bit more important, then you can make this one red, and if we execute it, then it's red. So you can use any function that you want here. Let's see, what is the next thing that I have to explain? Another fun thing. So I have this little application here called Code Runner, and I use that to run small bits of code that that I don't necessarily want to write in a file. It's just for testing stuff out. And you might also have like a PHP project somewhere where you don't want to install the package in, because right now I've let you see that we've always used a Ray package in the application itself. So if I go to Laravel Ray here, you can see here that I installed it here. But having to install Ray in every project can be a little bit cumbersome as well. And we have a solution for that. So let me show it to you. So if I go to Code Runner here, and let's dump something here, hello Netherlands, and let's run this. You can see that we have a fatal error. Ray doesn't exist. Because we don't include anything, there's nothing here. Now, how can we make the Ray function available here? Well, there's a little package that I've made. Let me show it to you. It's on GitHub, and it's called Global Ray. And what Global Ray does is to enable Ray, and as a bonus you also get DD and dump, in every PHP file on your system, even if you don't have like any dependencies at all there. So let's see that in action. So we have that undefined function here. Let's now install global ray. And truth be told, I've already installed it, so I don't have to require it anymore. So if you need to do that, it's just a composer global way. And then you need to do global ray install. Let's try to do that. Do you wish to install it globally? Yes, I want to do that. I want to do that in that file. Okay, happy debugging, good times. Let's see in CodeRunner here what is happening here. And sure enough, we don't get the error anymore. And let's get Ray also on the screen. You can see hello Netherlands. So now PHP globally knows this function, which is, yeah, quite handy because now you don't even have to install Ray in your individual projects anymore. Now, how does that work? Let's spill the beans on that. So you might have noticed that here I had to choose a ini file of PHP where I want to install it in. Now let's open up that PHP file. Ooh, and I did something wrong last time I was here, but let's just open it. And if we take a look and search for prepend here, then you see here a directive called the auto prepend file, which is a directive that you might not be familiar with. But in auto prepend file, you can set a PHP file that will be loaded before the file that you requested to load. So you can do this you can use that file to basically define any function that you want, and it will be available everywhere. And that is just what our global Ray installer command does. What it does is it will set that ini directive to a file of our own, and here we define the Ray functions using a var, so it certainly works in your PHP version, but that's a little bit technical. I'm not going to dive into that. But here, yeah, is all the magic that is happening. And if you want to define like another function on your system that needs to be everywhere, yeah, you can just use the auto prepend file yourself as well. That's how that works. Okay, let's move away here. Let's take a look and go back to the slides. So yeah, this was just a whirlwind tour of Ray. Personally, I use it every day, and yeah, we've been quite successful with convincing people of this. I think I don't know the exact number, but yeah, it's in the thousands of people that work with Ray. Everything that I've said is also documented on our company website. There's a page with like a reference of every Ray function that there is. If you want to see more little demos, they are available on myray.app. That is like the promotional page. And to give you a reward for listening to my talk here, we've decided to just give Ray away for free to this audience. So if you use this code on myray.app, you will be able to use Ray for free. So that's everything that I had to say about Ray. If you have any questions about it, or want to see some stuff in action again, I'm happy to show you again. Ray has been a labor of love, and I'm very glad that a lot of people seem to be liking it. So thank you for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the meetup. Thanks.
Thank you very much for these loving words at the end. Are there any questions in the audience?
Frederick.
So, how would you rate on a scale from not professional to very professional a user who uses Reason?
Very professional. I think enterprise architect level. Hey.
When starting Ray, you give a title.
Mhm.
Where do you see it in the Ray app?
Ah,
Haven't seen that.
that's a good question. I didn't show you that. Um, let's go back to my little demo command here. So you can have like a new screen here. So let's execute this. If you want to have like a title here, you can just give it to new screen. This is the title. Title, like that. Oh, there is no title. That is strange. Hmm. Wait, is that something that can be fixed with a restart? Or otherwise I'll have to... okay, that's a little bug. Yeah, I have to fix that. Sorry about that. Normally it's just with new screen and you can just give it the title here. I'll get that fixed ASAP.
Very good spotting the bug.
Yeah.
Luckily, with Ray, you can debug fast, so
Yeah.
that shouldn't be a problem for you.
Good one.
Are there any more questions?
When running global ray,
Mhm.
so it gets imported in every file, right?
Yeah.
But then if you have legacy code or something and you use it, then you can't push it to production because it would not find the function.
Yeah, if that case, if you use global ray, yeah, then you shouldn't push those ray calls. If you want to be able to push the ray calls, you need to install the package itself so that it's comes along on your other environment as well.
Because else
that's
it
good to-
will give a bug in production.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Or you would have to install global ray on production as well. That could also be
Yeah.
an option.
And if you install global ray, or does global ray also install Laravel ray?
No, that's just the framework agnostic version of Ray.
It would be cool if it checks if it's there.
Well, it does that.
Ah.
So you can use global Ray on your system, and you get like the framework agnostic Ray functions in every PHP file. But if it detects like we're in a project and we have Laravel Ray,
Mhm.
then it will deactivate itself and it will let Laravel Ray do its thing. So you have like the best of both worlds.
Ah, cool.
Luckily, we thought of that.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
All
then
right.
it's time to have a little break. So grab a drink, get some fresh air. We will be back in 15, 20 minutes or so. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Wat?
Zijn jullie er weer klaar voor? Pak nog even snel wat te drinken. Want we gaan dadelijk weer een goede talk tegemoet. Dit keer van Frederik van Brabant. He's going to talk about, I just became a team lead, now what? So I'm not a developer. I will never become a team lead in developing, but maybe someday in marketing. But I'm very curious what you're going to talk about. So give him a loud applause and take it away.
I will. Thanks for the introduction. This talk is not only for developers, so you're in luck. It's kind of for developers as well, so it's mainly for developers. That kicks us off with the start. Are there any team leads in the audience? Okay. Yeah. Are there any CTO, team leads, people who have a team and support those people? In general, yeah, of course there are. That was a slide I was supposed to show with that. Are there people who want to become team leads, except you? We already covered that one. Okay, cool. So, quick disclaimer, your mileage may vary. These are my experiences. These might not per se be your experiences, but it might be. Yeah, I'm sure we can both, or we can all learn something today here. So, this is not the cover of Time magazine. This is me, Frederik van Brabant. I spout a ton of nonsense on my Twitter account and even more nonsense on my blog. You can find them there. I'm a keyboard for hire. The question at the end, which I always get, is, are you a team lead yourself? And the option is, no, I'm not, but I used to be. These days, I'm an enterprise architect. If you don't know what that means, you can get me back next year, and I'll give you a talk about what enterprise architecture is all about. Until then, I'll figure something out. So yeah, but I used to lead teams. I've been CTO. I've been team lead in different functions and different projects. So I've done it before. Okay, cool. This talk is in a few parts. This is the first part, becoming a team lead. We will also cover keeping your team motivated, the hiring, talking to clients. So we'll just see where we get. First of all, this might look pretty familiar to a lot of people here. This is what most people think that a software team looks like. So you have your junior developers, you have your meteor developers, senior developers, a team lead, and then you have the kings of the castle, kings and queens, I guess, of the castle, who are like puppet mastering all these kind of things. So as this is a great place, so let's maybe open it up a bit. What's a junior developer? This is a question from me to you. What do we think that a junior developer is? Young? Is it only young people that are junior developers, or there's a lot of different opinions about that part? Yeah, I definitely agree. A lot of people think, yeah, a junior developer is someone who just came out of school. I worked with junior developers who could in other companies be senior developers, and I worked with senior developers who definitely could be junior developers in other companies. In my opinion, a junior developer is someone who is not very familiar in the formal ways of coding, as in might be a hobby developer. There are obviously hobby developers who are very, very experienced, but in general, people who don't have like the more formal skills of running in a company and producing code in a professional way. Okay. Next up, meteor developers. What's the difference between a junior and a meteor? What's the difference there? Anyone? More experience, definitely. I would argue they use a debugging tool, for example. So yeah, more experience in the ways of writing code, but also in thinking of terms of projects. A junior developer might be more going with the ideas of a project manager or more senior developers. Meteor developer has more the ideas of thinking in function of the application. So if we change some code here, maybe some code there will also change. And is that good? Should we do this? Maybe we should introduce more testing, those kind of things. This is the thing everyone thinks they are. A lot of senior developers in the audience, I assume. Always are. So what's a senior developer? Yeah. And that's, I think, a very, very interesting and very good take. For me, the difference, again, this is my experiences and my opinions here, the difference between a meteor developer and a senior developer is not so much that the senior developer is a better coder than a meteor developer or a junior developer. It's more the coaching, the ownership, the thinking beyond their own tiny little realm. It's more about, if we do this for this tiny change in this application, is it actually a good idea for our client? Like, would our client be having a benefit from this change? Should we implement this feature? And also discussing that, also coaching the people next to them. So there's a lot of value there, I think, in becoming a senior developer. It's not just sitting behind a computer and writing code faster than a meteor developer. It's more the social skills and the thinking outside of the code and more in conceptual ways, for me, again. This one, straight, obvious, I assume. If you know the rest, you can go for maybe follow the line, or so you would think, okay, they're probably the best developer and maybe the best coach for all of them. Would make sense. I would argue not. For me, a team lead, as the name kinda gives away, is not a developer anymore. They're team leads who never touched a line of code in their life. I'm gonna be honest with you, there's not a lot of those, but still there are. The idea the team lead is not above developers, it's more they support developers or whatever team they're leading. It's there to take the blame, take a bit of the umbrella to stop the, can we curse? We can curse, right? The shitstorm coming there and just deviate it from the team they're supporting. So it's not leading a team, it's supporting a team. And that's, I think, a very, very important thing to keep in mind there. Also, your team is now no longer the developers, it's more the other team leads. More on that later. So, as I said, your main job is mostly supporting the development team, not leading them, not whatever, coaching them, well, obviously also coaching them, but more supporting them. This is a very important one as well. We kind of live in this a bit floaty, but we live in a world where we're kind of measured by how far we can get, and it's a bit of comparing yourself to someone else. Your first question might be, is that something I want to do? Like, I love development. My job as a team lead might not be a lot of development. Is this something I want to do? Is this a step I want to go? There's this obvious progressive curve, as we've seen here. You can see there's kind of this pyramid kind of thing going on. As we discussed here, it's not necessarily so, but a lot of people think it's like this. Is this something I want to follow? Is this really where I want to end up? Currently, my job is doing a lot of PowerPoint presentations and writing a lot of documents in Excel. I don't touch a lot of code these days. Is this something you want to do? I don't know. It's something you have to make up for yourself there. Okay, so you're now a team lead. Cool. You just got promoted. And you're ready to do your first project. Let's see what it's all about. So the project manager asks you in the room as a team lead. They say, okay, we have this new project coming up, and we want you to take the lead on this one. It's Strava for wine sommeliers. So it's actually kind of a competitive drinking thing. So track and compete in wine tastings. It's a pretty novel idea. You can take it. That's a free one. Okay, do you see it? You want to do this? Yeah, it sounds good. Sounds cool. Okay, cool. Okay, and these are the numbers here. So there's a budget of 100,000 euros, and there's a time frame of 2 months. Again, some audience participation. There's one scary thing on this slide. Can you guess what the scary thing on this slide is? Time frame. Yeah, indeed, it's the time frame. The budget, just money, right? The time frame is scary. Let's see. Okay, so okay, you recognize this. You've been through the loops before. Okay, cool. I recognize time frame, scary stuff. Okay, so this is the tech stack the company likes to use. They use Vue and Blade in the front end. I don't know, Freek, is that still up to date? Okay. They use the Laravel backend. They have some kind of package, probably Spassy developed it. They use MySQL as a database layer, and we use Docker for our development. Now, you're a tech lead. You've been to a lot of tech conferences. You go to a lot of meetups like this, and you're like, okay, this is cool, but I've been going and I've been reading a lot of stuff, and I've been going to a lot of these conferences, and I'll watch a lot of conference videos online on live streams. So maybe we can like I don't know, mix it up a bit. So this front end stuff. I have this front end developer in my team. She's really into React. So let's maybe strip the Vue stuff and make it headless with a front end in React. So she's happy, I'm happy, it sounds cool. React is cool, I guess. Laravel backend, cool. We all love Laravel, obviously, but I saw some amazing conference talks about ports and adapters and DDD. DDD is it's a fancy word, so we can use these. So ports and adapters, DDD, headless front end, React. MySQL, did you know that MySQL was bought by Oracle? We don't like Oracle. So Postgres, it's cool. And Docker, well, you can't have Docker. I saw someone with a t-shirt of Kubernetes. We need Kubernetes. Okay, cool. And you look at this and you say to yourself, this is a pretty cool tech stack we can use for this project. I can probably write a blog about this. That would be cool. But then you think, it's my first project. It's a bit overkill, no? We only have 2 months. Okay. Let's do it like this then. Kubernetes sounds scary. Let's not do Kubernetes. The rest will work. Okay, cool. But now you have to develop your team. So this is the team we're going forward with. We have 2 backend developers. We have a senior developer and a junior developer. The idea here is the senior developer probably is all about DDD. The junior developer probably not yet. But if we couple the senior developer with the junior developer, the senior developer can do the DDD stuff. The junior developer might be at the end of the project maybe a media developer because they have experience in DDD, and that's what makes you a senior developer, apparently. The front-end developer, well, she was asking for React. Let's let her prove her React skills. And the part-time DevOps, well, you need a part of DevOps if stuff goes bad. And we don't need a full-time DevOps because we skipped the Kubernetes part, so we can just do the Docker part. Okay, cool. Sounds great. But you're a good team lead, so you're going to count it out in advance. To the left, I have a beautiful bar, which is your budget. And let's count out some numbers here. So it's 2 months. We have 1 senior developer, and it's going to take up 26% of your budget for 2 months work. Okay, sure. The media developer, the junior developer is obviously a bit less, it's 22%. The media front-end developer, 24%. And the DevOps work is 6%. Okay, that looks good, right? Looks like a good project. Cool. You're kind of good at this, right? 22,000 euros a straight up profit. Nice. Okay, let's get this thing on the road. Okay, project is on the way, and you focus on other very important stuff, like, I don't know, play chess online or something. And then you come back to the project. We're nearing the end. So how's the project doing? Okay, let's check in on everything. So remember that front-end developer. Okay, it's actually from 31% instead of 24. Okay, what happened there? Yeah, we had to do some overtime because it turns out that ports and adapters and DDD is kind of hard. It's actually pretty hard. Huh. Okay, so wait, if the senior developer was struggling with ports and adapters and DDD, and how is the junior developer doing then? 26, because also overtime, because the senior developer was doing overtime, so the junior was also doing overtime. They learned a ton, maybe, I guess so. But we spent a lot of money there. The front end work. The front end work was actually less. Why? Why it was less? Well, she was really into the React stuff. It was headless. Headless is easier to work with. Plus, she's really apparently really into React stuff. So it's less. It's great. It's cool stuff. And the DevOps people. Well, nothing changed there. It's still 6%. Okay. 16.7. So that 22,000 euros turned into 16,700 euros. Still okay, right? It's pretty okay. Profit? Is this profit? It's not profit, right? It's what we made from the project. We still have some other stuff to do, like not only did we get the wages, but we also have electricity, rent of the building. There's a future research. People might get sick. We need to be careful about like how we do profit scales for the company. So is this profit? Debatable, but still might cover it probably. So okay, cool. As we said in the beginning, your new colleagues are now the team leads of the other places there. And you go to them and you discuss your first project and you say, I kind of went overboard with the technology, was a bit bad. It's yeah, I invested way too much in the technology part. But okay, we kind of got it out there in the end about the profit thing. Is it profit or is it not profit? Well, it's okay, you know, it's okay. And then the head of marketing is like, yeah, I remember my first project. Yeah, I also went overboard. It was a bit of a disaster, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, sure. That reminds me, when can we start with this project? Because yeah, we still have to do a lot of work there. Then it kind of dawns on you that these people, they're also on this project. And so you didn't actually have 100% of the budget there. You only have 70% of the budget, which turns this into this. Youch. That's 20,000 euros. Fish. So, moral of the story of this very fun story. I made it into 4 PowerPoints. It's a PowerPoint joke. I make PowerPoint jokes. First of all, software is extremely expensive, as you might have noticed. We went for a lot of technology. Technology costs a lot of money. The 100,000 euro we started with apparently was not enough to do this project. Well, in the way we did it, obviously. Also, the time frame was really tight. Second of all, quality costs a lot of money. The DDD, ports and adapter, headless stuff, Docker, Kubernetes. Is it quality? Debatable. But if you want to go for the more enterprisey way, the prescribed, trademarked, correct way, that's going to cost you a lot of money. Am I saying the original way they did it was bad? Or obviously not. But if you just follow the correct way, what experts like to call you, be prepared to well, if it's new technology, if it's new techniques, be prepared to drop a lot of money for that, because it's a learning phase as well. You're not an island. The other team leads in your team, if you talked to them before, you would have known that the budget was not all yours. It's very important to have a deep connection with everyone around you to see where everyone is doing and see where you are in relationship to what everyone else is doing. And communication could have solved all of this. If you went to the daily stand-ups, you wouldn't have to go there in the end of the project and see that the ports and adapter developer might have been a bit off course and maybe over their head coaching the junior, and you might have catched more. You could scale it back. You can just like, if you keep the hand on a pulse there, you can quickly see where some issues might lay and interact with them. So this is just a fun little story about possible true story there. Okay, who knows these slides? Okay, we all love this slide, right? We're developers, we love this slide. I'm going to go on a limb here, and we're all wrong about this slide. So here's the thing: you have good, fast, cheap. So if you want it good and fast, you can't have it cheap. If you want it cheap and fast, you can't have it good. If you understand where I'm going here. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't understand, especially in software, is you walk into a meeting room, you show this to a client, and you're like, oh, blah blah blah. If you want it fast and cheap, you can't have it. Blah blah blah. What I just said. Uh, but the client in front of you is really not that interested in this part, and that's a very very painful reality here. A client walks into your office and they already thought about everything, they know what they want, and they have a very different perspective of what they want. If you're going there and you say, yeah, but if we do it fast and cheap, we might not have enough time to write the test and do the deep testing, and I don't know, we want to cover this with extra exceptions, and then we want to make a headless function there, and your client will be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Is that good? Is that bad? I don't know. I just want a button that sends a mail. I don't care if it's good, it's just a button that sends a mail. They're mostly looking for this, not for the super deep DDD kind of stuff or whatever kind of extra queue you want to put in there. They're not looking for that. So keep that in mind every time you're talking about projects. Is the different perspectives everyone in the audience has about the same problem. A conceptual problem might not be a very technical problem for the same people there. Okay. Keeping the team motivated. A bit faster here because I want to devolve a bit more time at the end. That's the hiring part. It's always the fun part. So the motivation part. I made this slide. I call it my yoga slide because it looks like something from a yoga magazine. I redeveloped it 4 times. It always comes out the same. Sorry about that. So this is my trust, honesty, and context Zen slide. So what's this all about? This is what I think are the key parts of interacting with a team. And again, a bit floaty, but trust, honesty, and context. What's it all about? So if you talk to a team, you hire intelligent people there. If you don't trust your intelligent people, then what's the point of hiring them, right? That sounds very obvious to me. You can do anything yourself. You can do everything yourself. So it's kind of interesting to a lot of people, especially technical people, if they see a problem, they go into problem solve mode. Okay, we need to do this. Okay, we can do this. It's why do you hire these people? Why don't you just like, we have this problem, let's just discuss it in group, or even like take this problem away and like try and solve it. Why not? I trust you. You can do it. And ownership blooms quality. This goes in line with the second part. If you give someone the ownership, for example, we want to find a new debugging tool. Don't just go to your office, do some Googling or whatever, and come with the answer yourself. No, if you go to your team and you say, okay, we want to find this tool for this use case, this team of 2 people, you go there and find me a solution there. They will take it, they will go to wherever they work, I don't know. Then they spend a few hours there debating very heavily among themselves, come out with the tool they actually want to use, and at the same time, the tool they probably at this point really know well because they spent some time with it, and they're going to be invested in this decision. It's not going to be, okay, whatever, here's a tool, okay, I guess we'll have to use it. No, this is the tool I chose. This is a tool I want to use, and I really want to know this tool. That's the difference there. So that's the trust part. The other part is the honesty part, which is really a big thing here. Office politics, I think a lot of people know what office politics is all about. It's sadly a reality of working in a company, but well, some companies have a lot of it, some companies don't have a lot of it. But yeah, it really kills motivation. A lot of people are, once office politics really start to roll, a lot of people are just invested in the office politics, not in the actual working or whatever. Kind of kills the motivation a lot. Also, this admit when you're wrong is it's such an obvious thing, but it's such a very valuable thing. If I just want to imprint anything from this entire talk on you, it's like this is one of the most important things. Is when you face a problem and you have a discussion with someone, at some point you have the option of just going, I'm going to blindly follow whatever I'm been defending because I don't want to lose face, or you can just say, sorry, you know what? Maybe your arguments convinced me I might be wrong here, or I am wrong here. Not I might be wrong, but I am wrong here. What's the difference between those two things? If you want to save your face, the other person at the end of the table is not going to be like, oh wow, he or she's really defending their point. Wow, he's really they're really saving face here. Yeah, that's not a reality. If they say, sorry, I might be wrong, next time you're in a debate, the other person at the table will be like, last time when they weren't fully convinced, they were like, okay, I might be wrong here. So at this point, if they're like still debating their point, they must be really believing in it. So it brings the conversation closer together. Also, you get back what you put in there. If you're being honest to other people might probably will also be honest with you. This is really important in a team environment. If you there's an issue in the team and they're trying to like hide it away a bit from you because there's not a lot of honesty going on there, you're going to face issues. If they come directly in front of you with issues and they say, sorry, this is happening, or I made a mistake myself, okay, cool, let's finish it. Don't go, oh, you made a mistake, ooh, blah, blah, blah. No, just like, okay, we can find a solution now, there's a mistake, we can solve this as a team. Context is also something that's really often ignored, is why are we doing things, is a big thing. So, small story there. Say you have a client. You have a new client that comes to you, and your new client is, okay, I really like your team, and I really like your company, but we have a very big project which is extremely business critical to us. We're not sure if your company is ready for us, to be honest. It's a bit, so we're not sure there. So what we kind of want to do is we also have this very small project, very time restricted, very low budget. We want you to do it first. If it goes well, then we can give you the cool big project. What do you think about that? Okay, you say, that's cool. And then you have two options. First, you go to your development team and you're like, okay, I need you to make this small project. There's not a lot of time, and I don't want you to invest a lot of technology, time, or mind space into it. Just make it quick and dirty, ship it, and it's going to be okay. If you hear it as a developer, you're like, okay, this is a crappy project, I hate my job, and I'm going to update my LinkedIn. If you go to your team and you say like, okay, here's the situation. We have this really cool, amazing project going on. I really want you to be part of it, but first we have to prove ourselves. We need to do this quick, dirty application, ship it out there, and if it comes back and it's good, we can do the really cool stuff. Same thing, basically. You just spend maybe 20 seconds more, which gives a world of difference between the people there. If in the second case, the development team will be like, okay, just need to crush this, it's going to be okay. In the first case, it's going to be like, oh, is this what we're doing now? See, that's the difference there, the context part. So this isn't only about software. This is a great life lesson I'm giving all of you, because I'm also a life coach, apparently. So all these things are things you can apply to most things. Obviously, not only software teams, just in general teams, or whatever else in your life that's going on, because I know all about that stuff. So the trust, honesty, context part. Okay, talking to clients, I compressed it to, again, 3 powerful points. So I made a small survival guide here. 3 small parts, but important parts. First of all, listen to them. Oof, controversial. They have a problem. They come to you with a problem. They've probably been thinking a lot about this problem because, as we said before, software costs a lot of money. So when you have 100,000 euros, 20,000 euros, 40,000 euros, whatever amount of money to spend, you're going to think it over for a second. And if you have this issue and you come to a meeting room, and you're saying, okay, this is the problem we have, and then there's a developer or a team lead or whatever person, and he says, okay, it's very easy, you just do it like this, whatever, ship it, it's okay. That's not the experience you want as a client. That's exactly like the opposite of what you want. You want the person to say, okay, wow, this is really, okay, I understand this issue. Okay, let's talk about it. Maybe like dive a bit deeper there, see where the intricacies lie, see how we can adapt this. different experience there. Client love that. Also, you're going to catch a lot of more details about the project if you actually listen to them and go in conversation with them. Don't promise extra. Come in. I need to have a search engine in my big e-commerce site. You're there, you're like, okay, search engine. I'm thinking Elasticsearch. Okay, we need to do Elasticsearch. We can maybe do predictive searching when you start typing that other things do. It's a standard feature of Elasticsearch. That's nice. Okay, we can do that. We know what we're going to do searching stuff with predictive search and stuff. Okay, thanks client. That's great. Okay, cool. These are the other requirements. Okay, fuck. Again, I can swear. Okay, that's not ideal. Okay, we can't use Elasticsearch. Okay, we have to code it all ourselves. Okay, cool. Oh yeah, also we can't do the predictive search then. That's not what a client wants to hear. Just like, don't promise extra because you just promised predictive search without actually out of the blue. It's not never in a contract, but you just promised it. That's not great stuff there because you now are going to need to build it. Write it down and mail it. If you're in a lot of meetings, there's always at least some person who writes everything down. Everyone hates being that person. I would say that's the most important part of being in a meeting. If I'm in a meeting, I'm always writing everything down and at the end mailing it. It's three very, very important reasons for that. First of all, you seem smart because they know you can write. Second of all, you kind of control the narrative there because you're writing down, they're not writing down. So in theory, you could write down whatever you want, and this has been discussed because it's on paper. It doesn't work like that. Don't do that. And in the end, it gives a very professional black and white opinion at the end. So you send it over to them, and next time, a month later, you can reference back to it and say, okay, this is what we actually discussed. I mailed it to you. This is where we were at that point, and now you can see it. Also for personal going back and personal maintenance, it's really important. It's something you have to get used to. It's really hard to talk and write at the same time. Took me a long time to master it, but I think it's a very worthwhile skill to do. Also, there are a lot of really cool tools where you can use. Personally, I use Obsidian for it. It's really cool, and I highly recommend it. Okay, cool. And the trust sequence stuff, the yoga stuff. So this is the most fun part, right? Hiring. That's something when I was a developer, I was always, I really want to be involved in hiring stuff because it's amazing. Is that the same with you? Do you want to, like, who is, like, involved in hiring? Okay, cool. Who likes it? Okay, that's about half of those people. And there's a good reason for that. So hiring. Who's done these before? Brain teasers. You know what I'm talking about? Like the whiteboard stuff, where you have to come and they say, oh, you sound like a very intelligent person. Here is a test to prove it. They are there for a reason. It's a safety net. I've done some hiring in my past, and I can't maybe, it's hard to, if you've never done it before, it's hard to come to the realization that the people in front of you, you see a lot of people. Let's put it like that. I've seen some really interesting thing, and it's there for a reason. I've at one point hired a very, very good person who was really good at explaining me all the intricacies from how a CPU works. And then a week later, you're like standing next to them, and it's like, yeah, but you do know how code works, right? And then they're like, actually, no. So yeah, these brain teasers, sadly, they are a reality of working. But it's not all horrible. So I made a very handy list. You can just copy paste into your next hiring session, and we can just like see what the options are. There are a lot of good options, there are a lot of bad options, but just these are the common ones. So we can maybe run through them together. It's gonna be great. So FizzBuzz. Who ever heard of FizzBuzz? Okay, cool. Few of you. It's always 50-50. It's some. I've come to talks before where like everyone is like, of course I know Fizz. What are you like? And I've been to meetups where it's like, I don't know, is that some kind of country in the Andes? So FizzBuzz, what's it all about? this is Fizzbuzz. Before you go dive too deep in this code, this is not my code. I copy pasted it from GitHub. Why? Because if there's an error, you can't blame it on me. So Fizzbuzz, what does it do? It loops between one, I guess, and 100. Then every time it's divisible by 3, it echoes fizz. If it's divisible by 5, it echoes buzz. If it's divisible by 3 and 5, it echoes fizzbuzz. And otherwise, it just does a number. It's whoop. It's just a list full of fizzbuzz and fizzbuzz. Again. So that sounds easy enough, right? I think most people, myself not included, would be able to solve this. So, okay, that's an option. Why is this a thing? I've seen people freak out on stuff like this. Also, there's also the thing of stress and coding in public, but that's something we'll cover at the end. Very smart questions to see how the candidate thinks. This was a huge thing for Google and all the big cool companies in the 2000s. Questions like this are like, how many golf balls are there in New York? How many window cleaners are there in Boston? Why are manhole covers round? Stuff like that. What's the idea here? You sit together with the candidates, you ask a stupid question like this, and then you see how they react. So, how many golf balls are there in New York? Okay, obviously there's no answer. Obviously, it's kind of the point to see how they think. So, how many golf balls are there in New York? Then you can start to think. Okay, how many people are there in New York? Okay, 2 million. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, from all those people, how many golfers would there be? I don't know, 2% or something. Okay, take for example 2%. How many golf balls does a normal golf user have? And do they store them at home in New York or at the golf club? And that's the kind of thing you want to go over with them. Like, you're talking to them and you see how they think. Do they make logical things, or do they like really do absurd things by saying that there are 2 million people in New York or something? Okay. Gilded Rose. Who knows Gilded Rose? No? That's great. That's my favorite one. Because nobody ever knows it, which is a bit weird to me because it used to be a big thing. So Gilded Rose is this, I think, really cool concept where you have an application of 2 files. One is a few hundred lines of spaghetti code, and the other is a smaller model of also like spaghetti code. It's horrible code, but it works. What does it do? It's the Gilded Rose is some kind of World of Warcraft thing. I never played World of Warcraft, so I have no idea. It's a bar there, apparently. And it's a ticketing system, like the ordering system of ordering a beer or whatever. So if you order a beer, then it says, oh, it costs so much mana, gold, euro, whatever, tokens. And there's a lot of edge cases there. They're like, if you order a beer, but you order a second one and a wine, then your first beer is half price, but your second beer is double the price. It's like really a mess of business logic. It's a hellhole. But the cool thing about it is it comes with an amazing testing suite. Like, the testing suite is foolproof. It covers everything without in the smallest exception. And the idea of Gilded Rose is that you give it to a potential new candidate, and you say, can you make it better? As in, refactor it, make it readable, do whatever you want with it. But at the end, the tests should still work, and we can talk about what we did here. That's the idea of Gilded Rose. Small disclaimer there. This is a GitHub profile from Emily Bachet, I don't know, who has a ton of different Gilded Rose versions in a ton of different languages and versions of that language. So there's, for example, a PHP 5 version, there's a PHP 8 version, there's also a Go version, there's a Java version, there's a JavaScript version. It's like a ton of them. So whatever your use case might be, you can find it here. Thank you, Emily. Okay, next one is show us some open source work. This is quite an obvious one, right? If you have open source work, you can just say, hey, can you show us some open source work? They can show you some open source work. You can see, okay, look at this. There's code. I know you can code. If that's not a thing, you can ask them to create a PR to some open source work. This brings some extra things with it, but we'll cover that at the end. And this is a controversial one. You can actually just talk to them like a human being. Okay, so I made this amazing template where we can just... Okay, so there are like gray boxes here, but it's not very important. You can, I made a table here, and we're just going to go over them and see how they score. So what are the different criteria we're looking for? First of all, is there technical skills? That's the thingy. The second one is how they interact with other people, because personally I think that's extremely important for a developer, and you probably think that as well because we covered that. And this is the growth potential. This is also something when you talk to new colleagues, it's something to very much keep in mind that the person you're hiring today might not be the person you have in your team next year. So it's always interesting to see what the potentials there are. This is just to give an insight what these tests can do for this, what you can check. So it's not foolproof, obviously, but it might be. FizzBuzz, in my opinion, you can have some insight in how they can code, but it's not foolproof. You just have a very small application there. You know they can use the modular, that's this thing. For all you, so you learned something about coding today. That's the modular modulator. So you can know if they can use it. And it's also the only way you will ever use that thing is in a FizzBuzz issue. So you can learn that they learn the basics of coding. Is that super helpful? I don't know. The how many golf balls in New York kind of questions. You can see how they think and how they interact. So, for example, if you ask them how many golf balls there are in New York, they stand up and they walk outside of the room. Then you know that you might not be a good fit for your team, and you might follow them. So yeah, the upside is that you look really smart if you ask something like that. It's really there's also a reason why Google and stuff don't do this anymore, because it's not really a good idea. The gilded rose thing, in my opinion, this is really important. This is a really good way to cover these two things. For the technical proficiency, for example, if they use if they extract it to different smaller classes, if they use different techniques like command bus patterns, if they use DDD kind of stuff, if they just refactor it in a sensible way, you can see how they refactor it. And personally, I think refactoring is one of the most important things in software development. If you look at the growth potential, then you can say, okay, you did it like this. Why did you do it like that? And that gives a lot of insight in how a person thinks and how they see how they could think. If you sit together and you see like, okay, you extracted this to these kind of files, why did you do it like this? And then they can give maybe a good, maybe a answer, and then you can say, okay, but have you thought about this? And then you can see how they react. Okay, I didn't think about that. Okay, do you see the issue? See the upsides here, or would you do something different there? And then you have a conversation going. And you have a conversation going where you can also kind of see where they're going for and their potential there. Show us some open source work. This is obviously, if they don't have open source work, you're kind of out of luck there. It's also a bit focusing too much on their off time. I know a lot of people have this. There's a lot of some companies put a bit too much issue on the. How do you mean you don't have open source work? You're a developer, right? You live and breathe code. I think that's maybe a bit of not an ideal thing in our industries, that we focus too much on developers need to code and code all the time. I don't think that's really healthy, to be honest. I rather have people have a good life-work balance there. But at the same time, a lot of people do really love open source work. So if they have open source work, you can talk about the open source work. You can see what they really like doing, because they created, like they spent like hours and hours upon their free time doing that work, so they're probably passionate about something, so you give a deeper insight in how they interact. Also, how they interact with possible other open source people. Make a PR to open source stuff gives a lot of insight in what kind of project they will pick out there. Also, I got in the past some questions about, okay, but can't we just give them like a project from our own, ask them to write a bit more code on that stuff, and then ship it back to us? It's a win-win for everyone. We get like some extra code, and they get to prove it without doing the open source stuff. I would say no, please don't do that. It's a legal nightmare. Also, are you going to pay them for that? You should pay them for that because they gave you business value, and if you're gonna pay them, then you need to hire them, and it's like a big thing. Just don't do that. Just do it with open source stuff, and have the actual conversation stuff. Actually, I think you can get a lot of insight, technical insight in how people interact with you in a conversation about technical stuff. I said before that I had a conversation once with a guy who was really into CPU stuff, who was really knowledgeable about the topic, but it all fell apart when they actually started working. That's the downside. You can't cover everything there. What I would do personally, my own opinion, again, this is a big disclaimer, my own personal thing is I have the conversation first. And if I'm really not fully convinced about the entire thing, then I would do the Gilded Rose. But then you cover, in my opinion, everything. If they have open source work, obviously I would look at the open source work as well. But it's also, I don't like bringing it up in job interviews because it gives a bit of a wrong setting, in my opinion. But at the same time, have a conversation with them, see how everything goes. This is the most important part. If they have, in your opinion, a good growing track and they interact good with other people, technology will follow. It's just technology, right? Just an implementation issue. Okay, cool. So this is my survival guide for this. Don't forget about this part, the yoga slide. Also do that in job hiring stuff. If you promise, if you promise the coolest company in the world, 2 weeks later they start there and they see it's a horrible company, they're going to leave, and you spend a lot of resources on getting them interacted. So do the yoga stuff and you're going to be okay. Okay, cool. Thanks. That was me. Also, I stole some slides. These are the credits for the slides.
Always very important.
Honesty.
Yeah, of course. Are there any questions?
So thanks for your talk. A lot of lessons there.
Thank you.
Seems like you learned a lot along the way. Maybe sometimes in the hard way. What did you find becoming a team lead? What did you find the hardest part of these lessons to learn? What was the difficult factor?
Well, I think keeping the people motivated is always the hardest, because you have projects and your projects have a lot of input from outside, and these might cycle through to your development team itself, and it's always hard to guard them a bit from what's happening there. If a project fails, projects fail, which is obviously a thing, then yeah, you have to, why did it fail? And then you still need to be positive, and also without casting blame. Like if there's a team member who might have really screwed up there, it's hard to not think of them as like, oh no, you made this project fail, this is the second time, this sucks. But in the meantime, you're not going to win anything by going over to them and say, this is all your fault. Then that's just a sinking ship at that point. So you need to figure out why it's happening, and try to make sure it's not going to happen again, and try and find a constructive way out of it, or else, obviously. But that's a mental thing you need to keep going there, because it's very easy for yourself to be like, oh no, that guy again. And it's very important to not have that. And that's something I had in the beginning, especially, a lot of issues with. Yeah.
Any more questions? I have a question for you.
Sure.
You told that Gilded Rose used to be a really big thing, and you were surprised no one knew about it here. So why do you think it fell out of fashion?
That's a very good question. I have no idea. I have no idea. Sorry. It just disappeared, I guess. One of those things.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Beers?
Yeah, I was told to stand still now for the camera.
Okay.
But yeah, I would like to thank you both, Frederik and Freek. Joelle will give me some of the presents behind there
Oh,
for you
cool.
as a token of appreciation for you guys.
Thank you.
So there are some beers from Apeldoorn and from the Netherlands. So you can always make a Belgian people of person happy with that. I will be sending you all a feedback form. It would be really appreciated if you fill it in.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
Cool.
this one is for you.
Thank you.
It will be much appreciated if you fill it in. And we have a bit of over the summer holiday, we won't have any meetups. But on the 26th of September, if I'm correct, we will have our next meetup. It will be a meetup we will do with AWS. So if you're interested in this topic, you're very welcome. It will be here in Utrecht. And further announcements will be made on our meetup page. So let's grab a drink, and maybe it will work again. Music?
Cool. Merci. Nice.